He paid her $50,000 to walk away from his own children. Nate slid the envelope across the table. No hesitation, no eye contact. Take this. Solve your problem. Angela didn't speak. She reached into her bag, pulled out a black and white image. 3 tiny shapes, heartbeats frozen in ink. She placed the sonogram on the table, calm, direct. He glanced at it, scoffed. This isn't what I wanted. He stood, adjusted his tie, walked out, didn't look back. Angela sat still, one hand resting on her belly, the other on the envelope. Outside, his engine roared. Inside her, silence grew into resolve. In 29 minutes, he'll be in a room full of people, watching those same children do something he never could. Angela Brooks didn't grow up with much, but she carried a mind that didn't know limits. By 24, she was in her second year at MIT. Medical science, pediatric research. She spent nights in the lab, mornings in class, afternoons tutoring kids at the shelter. She wasn't loud, she wasn't flashy, but professors remembered her questions, and children remembered her warmth. In her dorm, there was a single photo taped above her desk. A woman holding a baby, both smiling, her mother. Before the accident, Angela stared at that photo every morning. It reminded her why she chose medicine. Why she didn't skip a single class. She didn't dream of yachts or fame. She wanted to cure the things no one else dared to touch. She believed science could change lives. She had no idea hers was about to be changed first. She met Nate Whitmore in a crowded research gala. He wore confidence like a tailored suit. CEO of Whitmore Pharmaceuticals at 31, legacy money, Ivy League Polish. He asked sharp questions, but his smile lingered longer than his words. Angela wasn't impressed by titles, but he spoke about innovation, access, saving lives. It sounded like purpose. Their conversations moved from conference calls to the coffee shops, then into late-night walks across campus courtyards. He listened, or at least pretended well, told her she was too brilliant to be buried in textbooks. He said he wanted someone like real, someone with fire, with vision. Angela didn't fall for money. She fell for the man who said he believed in hers. She thought they saw the world the same way. She thought wrong. They married 6 months after that first gala. Small ceremony, no press, just promises. Angela moved into Nate's penthouse. He said she deserved comfort, stability. At first it felt like love. Breakfast made, doors opened, notes left by the bed. Then came the questions. Why are you still up at 2 a.m.? Do you really need that class? Then came the demands. You don't need to prove anything. Quit MIT, focus on us. Angela laughed at first. She thought he was joking, but Nate wasn't. He called her schedule selfish, said a wife should know her priorities. One night he looked at her and said it flat. You don't need to go back to school. I'm already everything we need. That was the first time she felt the small in her own home. It wouldn't be the last. Angela found out on a Tuesday. 3 heartbeats, 1 womb. She stared at the ultrasound in disbelief, then joy, then fear. That night she told Nate. His smile faded before she finished. 3? He asked. His voice sharpened, his hands tightened. This isn't a blessing, Angela. This is a trap. She stood still, words frozen. He didn't stop. You think this will keep me here? Tie me down with children? Angela's breath caught. He wasn't shocked. He was angry. You planned this, he muttered. This is manipulation, not motherhood. She tried to speak. He walked away. No embrace, no questions, only silence. Angela sat alone on the bathroom floor, heartbeat against heartbeat, 3 lives inside her, and no one beside her. 2 days later, he called her into his office. The blinds were drawn, the air cold. On the desk sat a white envelope, thick, sealed, unlabeled. I've arranged everything, Nate said. No emotion, no eye contact. You'll find enough in there to get by. No lawyers, no press, just peace. Angela didn't reach for it. She stared at him. You're sending me away? He exhaled like it pained him, but there was no pain in his eyes. It's cleaner this way. You deserve a fresh start. She opened the envelope slowly. 50,000 in checks. Not a word about the babies. Not a plan. Not a name. Just money. Like she was a transaction. Angela left the building in silence. 3 lives growing inside her. And 1 man already choosing to forget them. Angela didn't have a plan. Just a suitcase, an ultrasound, and a check she never cashed. She walked for miles, shoes soaked, belly heavy. The city didn't see her. No one stopped. By nightfall, she stood in front of a small house on Maple Street, chipped paint, porch light flickering, home of her late mother's sister, Aunt Carol. She hadn't spoken to her in years, but she had nowhere else. Angela knocked once, then again. The door opened. Carol stared, eyes wide. Then she stepped forward, arms open. "Baby," she whispered, "you come in this house right now." Angela broke. She fell into her arms. No questions, no judgment, only warmth. That night, for the first time in days, Angela slept without fear. Morning came with the smell of coffee and toast. Angela sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a chipped mug. Carol moved gently around the room. No rush, no noise. She placed a plate in front of Angela, then sat down, looked her in the eye. "You're not alone, honey." Angela's throat tightened. That sentence hit harder than anything Nate ever said. Carol reached across the table, covering her hand. "I don't care what happened. Your blood. You're safe." Angela nodded, but her silence said more than words. That night, Carol pulled down boxes from the attic. Old baby clothes, blankets, things she had saved just in case. "3, huh?" She smiled softly. Angela smiled back, eyes glassy. For the first time in weeks, the word family felt real again. Angela didn't stop. Not for pain, not for pride. She found a part-time nurse aide job at a local clinic, low pay, long hours, but steady. Days were filled with patients, charts, and mop buckets. Nights were for lectures and labs. Online, quiet, relentless. Carol set up a folding desk in the laundry room. Angela called it her corner of hope. She studied between shifts, typed essays with swollen feet, memorized anatomy while washing bottles. Most nights her back ached, her eyes burned. But the dream stayed. She wasn't just working, she was rebuilding. Each patient reminded her why she chose medicine. Each quiz, a step closer. No scholarships, no shortcuts. But Angela Brooks still believed in the work, and that was enough to keep going. The babies came early, 7 weeks too soon. 3 tiny lives in 3 clear incubators. Tubes, beeps, soft cries. Angela lay in recovery, gown damp with sweat, IV in arm, laptop open on her lap. She watched a lecture on pediatric respiration, while her daughters fought to breathe. Nurses paused when they saw her. No one said a word, but they watched. Every breath the babies took she matched with notes in the margins. Madison, Riley, Zoe, each weighed less than 4 pounds. Each had her nose. Angela didn't cry, not in front of them. She wrote through the pain, studied through the tante, prayed with every keystroke. Her dream hadn't died. It had multiplied by 3. The email came at 6:12 a.m. Subject line, scholarship termination notice. Angela stared at the screen, unread, then read again. Too many missed deadlines, insufficient credit hours, policy, procedure, nothing personal. It didn't matter that she gave birth in a hospital room, that she studied beside incubators, that her grades had stayed strong. No extension, no appeal, just final. Her breath caught, her hands trembled. She had nothing left in savings, no way to pay the next term. The screen blurred. The babies cried from the next room. Angela pressed her palms to her eyes. For the first time, she let the sobs come. Deep, silent, full of fear, not for herself, but for the future she promised them, and suddenly couldn't afford to keep. Angela didn't tell Carol. She didn't need to. Carol noticed the silence, the skipped meals, the forced smiles. That evening, Carol walked in holding a small velvet box. She placed it on the table. "My husband gave me this in '78. Gold's worth more now." Angela opened it. A simple ring. Worn edges, soft shine. "I don't need it sitting in a drawer when it could put you back where you belong." Angela's throat tightened. She shook her head. Carol didn't argue. She just said, "Use it. Finish what you started." Angela held the ring like it was made of glass, not because of its value, but because of what it meant. Some dreams live on sacrifice. That night, hers got another chance. Angela didn't rest. She couldn't afford to. By day, she delivered prescriptions to homes. She carried boxes upstairs with one hand, textbooks in the other. By night, she translated medical forms at a local clinic. Spanish, Haitian Creole, broken English, whatever patients spoke, she understood. She pumped milk in bathroom stalls, ate granola bars between shifts. Carol kept the babies fed, warm, safe. Angela kept the future alive. She studied between stops. Watched lectures with the earbuds on buses. Sometimes she nodded off mid-sentence. Sometimes she cried on the kitchen floor. But not once did she stop. Every mile she drove, every chart she translated was for 3 little names written on a sticky note taped above her desk. Madison, Riley, Zoe. Angela pitched her prototype to a major biotech firm. Portable, low-cost, life-saving. The panel nodded. They asked technical questions. She answered them all. One executive leaned back, smiled politely. "Impressive work," he said, "but we're concerned about bandwidth." Angela blinked. "Bandwidth?" He glanced at her resume. 3 kids, no co-founder, no team. Startups take sacrifice. We need full focus. She held her breath, bit her tongue. Another chimed in. "You're clearly brilliant, but we need someone all in. This field moves fast." Angela stood, folder still in hand. "Thank you for your time," she said. Outside, she didn't cry. She'd heard it before, just never that clear. They didn't doubt her idea. They doubted her because she was a mother. And that was their mistake. Rejection didn't end her idea. It redirected it. Angela went home, opened her laptop, and started again. She posted on research forums, reached out to grad students, asked questions, shared findings. Slowly, strangers replied. A biochemist from Oregon, a programmer from India, a nurse from Detroit with NICU experience. They met on video calls at midnight, crossed time zones, shared screens, debated hard. Her kitchen table became a command center. Her whiteboard, a wall of sticky notes and sketches. They weren't funded. They weren't official, but they believed. Together, they built a prototype better than the first. Cleaner, smarter, cheaper. Angela didn't wait for permission. She built her own lane. And for the first time, she saw what could happen when motherhood and science shared the same space. It started with curiosity. Madison asked why wires spark. Riley wanted to know how blood flows through plastic tubes. Zoe memorized the names of every heart valve at age 6. Angela didn't push. She simply included them. One afternoon, they built circuits from foil and batteries. Another, they 3D printed heart valves in the garage. Homework shared space with lab notes. Lego bricks mixed with medical models. At night, they quizzed each other at the dinner table. Angela taught principles of pressure and flow using cereal boxes and spoons. Science wasn't a subject. It was the air they breathed. The girls didn't see limitations. They saw possibilities. They didn't ask if they were too young. They just asked what came next. Angela looked at them and knew. They weren't just her reason to fight. They were becoming part of the fight itself. The auditorium was full. Angela stood behind the podium, hands steady, voice calm. The screen behind her read, Honorary Doctorate in Biomedical Innovation, MIT. She didn't wear heels. She wore flats, the same pair she walked deliveries in. Her daughter sat front row, holding hand-drawn signs. "Go, Mom." "Dr. Brooks." Angela looked out at the crowd, then back at them. 3 smiles that carried her through every sleepless night. She didn't speak long. Just enough to thank the people who mattered. "I didn't get here alone. I got here with a village and 3 little girls who never let me quit." The room stood. Applause echoed. But Angela's eyes stayed on one thing. Madison's tear-filled grin. Zoe clapping like thunder. Riley mouthing the words, "You did it." Angela nodded back. "No, baby, we did." Angela filed the paperwork at 9:43 a.m., a quiet moment. No ribbon, no press. She named it Brooks Biomedical Innovations. Not after herself, but after every woman told she couldn't build anything alone. The office was a spare bedroom. The team, still virtual. The funding, scraped from grants, odd jobs, and faith. But the mission was clear. Design life-saving tools for children. Accessible, affordable, scalable. She bought a whiteboard, filled it with goals, hand-drew the logo with Zoe on her lap. Madison organized their online files. Riley proofread the pitch decks. It wasn't polished, it wasn't big, but it was real. Angela didn't wait for doors to open. She built one. And behind it, she lit a lamp bright enough for 3 girls to follow. The email subject read, FDA approval, confirmed. Angela read it twice. Then again. She didn't scream. She closed her eyes and let the silence hold it. Her team's device, compact, affordable, easy to use, was now cleared for national distribution, designed for neonatal clinics with no funding, built from scratch on a borrowed laptop. 2 days later, a private foundation wired $1.2 million. No strings, just belief. Brooks Biomedical could now manufacture at scale. Angela stood in the shipping room watching the first box get taped shut. Inside, tools that could help a baby breathe. Tools no one else had built because no one else had tried. Carol wept when she heard. Madison said, "Now we save lives for real." Angela nodded slowly. Not for glory, not for revenge, but for every child whose heartbeat just needed a chance. The envelope came by mail, heavy, embossed. Inside, an invitation to keynote the National Pediatric Innovation Summit. Angela paused. She'd watched others take that stage for years. Now it was her name in bold. She didn't tell the girls right away. She just held the letter to her chest and smiled. The summit would highlight breakthroughs in infant care. Her device was listed first on the program. A week later, the event confirmed travel. Flights, accommodations, full coverage, funded anonymously by a major pharmaceutical donor. Angela didn't ask who. She had more important things to think about, like what she would say when the spotlight finally found her. What she didn't know, what no one told her, was that Nate Whitmore's name was quietly printed at the bottom of every check. The hall was packed. Rows of doctors, researchers, cameras. Angela stood behind the curtain, palms steady, heart full. Her name was already on the screen. Then came the cue. She stepped forward, but she wasn't alone. Madison, Riley, and Zoe walked beside her. 3 dresses, 3 quiet smiles, 3 reasons she never gave up. The crowd stirred. Whispers turned into claps. Angela reached the podium. She didn't start with data. She didn't lead with credentials. She turned to her daughters. Before I speak, I want you to see what innovation looks like when it grows up in a kitchen, not a lab. They stood behind her, proud and still, and in that moment nothing else mattered. Not the room, not the past, only what stood beside her now. Nate sat in the front row. Dark suit, straight posture, silent. He didn't read the program, didn't know the keynote speaker's name. Then he looked up and saw her, Angela, alive, certain, unshaken. And beside her, 3 young girls with his eyes in her fire, his breath caught, shoulders stiffened. Applause swelled around him, but he didn't move. No one else knew who she was to him, or who they were. But he knew. Each step she took on that stage was a step away from the man who once gave her money to disappear. Now, she stood taller than anyone in the room, and he couldn't say a word, because she had already said everything by simply being there. Angela finished her final sentence. Simple, clear, true. Silence followed, just long enough to feel heavy, then the first clap, then another, then all at once. The entire hall stood, doctors, scholars, students, hands raised, voices joining. A standing ovation not for her title, but for her journey. The spotlight shifted, landing square on Angela's face. Bright, unblinking. She didn't flinch. Her daughters clapped the loudest. Carol wiped tears from the 3rd row. Nate stayed seated, still frozen, still silent. Angela looked out, eyes calm. This moment wasn't for validation. It wasn't for revenge. It was for every step she climbed alone. For every room she was told she didn't belong in. And now she stood in the brightest one of all. Backstage was quiet. Muted footsteps, hushed voices. Angela was gathering her notes when she heard it. His voice, low and uncertain. Angela. She turned slowly. Nate stood a few feet away, hands in his eye pockets, eyes down. I didn't know you were... He stopped, swallowed hard. I saw them, he said. The girls. Angela said nothing, let the silence answer. He stepped closer, voice cracking. I was wrong about everything. His shoulders dropped, years of weight settling in. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to say it. Angela held his gaze, still calm, still grounded. This was the moment he finally saw what he gave up. Not a burden, but a legacy. And he knew no apology could ever earn it back. Angela didn't flinch, didn't step forward, didn't step back. She looked at Nate, really looked at him. The same man who once told her she wasn't enough, now standing small in the shadow of what she built. Her voice was steady, quiet, but it carried. You didn't break me, she said. You made me unstoppable. He looked down. No defense, no reply. Angela continued. You handed me a check to disappear. I used it to build something permanent. Her tone didn't carry anger, only truth. I don't hate you, Nate, but I don't owe you anything either. She turned to leave. The conversation was over, not because she walked away, but because she had already moved on long before this day came. Nate cleared his throat. His voice softened. If you're open to it, I'd like to invest, help expand. Angela raised an eyebrow. Invest? He nodded. I believe in the mission now. You're onto something big. She didn't smile, didn't gloat, just looked him in the eye. I'm not building this for a buyout. I'm not building it for applause. He stayed quiet. Angela's voice didn't rise, but it cut clean. I don't build to profit, Nate. I build to save. That was it. No speech, no drama, just one truth. Simple, final. She turned and walked away. Not from spite, but from clarity. because her work didn't need his name, and never had. Later that afternoon, the youth panel began. Madison stood at the mic, hands steady, voice clear. She introduced herself not as a prodigy, but as a daughter. "My name is Madison Brooks," she said. "I'm 13, I love robotics, and I love my mom." The room smiled. Some laughed softly. Then she paused, just long enough. "We don't carry our father's name. We carry hers." She glanced at her sisters, then back to the crowd. "We carry her last name. We carry her legacy." Silence filled the space, deep and full. Madison nodded once, then stepped down. Angela sat in the front row, hand over her mouth, eyes wet. The applause came slowly, but it came. Louder than before, because truth sounds different when it comes from the next generation. The final award of the night was announced. National Impact in Pediatric Medicine, Dr. Angela Brooks. Angela walked slowly to the stage. No speech this time, just gratitude written across her face. The crowd stood again, but her eyes searched for one person and found her. Aunt Carol. Sitting quietly, hands clasped, eyes full, Angela stepped off the stage, walked straight into her arms. No words, just the kind of hug that holds years inside it. Angela cried without shame. Carol whispered, "Told you you'd get there, baby." Behind them, her daughters stood in line, 3 bright reflections of every battle won. That moment wasn't about medals. It was about the people who stayed, the ones who held the weight when she had nothing left to give. Footage played on the screen. Angela at the clinic, holding a newborn. Zoe building a prototype. Riley explaining case law. Madison adjusting a microscope. The audience watched in silence. Then the voiceover began. "They tried to bury her, but they didn't know she was a seed." Cuts flashed. Angela pushing a stroller with one hand, holding textbooks with the other. Carol opening her front door in the rain. The kitchen whiteboard filled with sketches. Late-night study sessions. They thought ending her dream would stop her, but it only planted deeper roots. The video faded to black. One final image remained. Angela's name, her daughters beside her, and a single word underlined beneath it. Legacy. A quiet moment lingered after the screen faded. Then a final slide appeared. "Coming soon, Brooks and Daughters Innovations. 3 names, 1 mission." Angela stood beside them, no longer the center, but the foundation. The future belonged to Madison, Riley, and Zoe now, and they were ready. Voiceover returned, steady, soft, certain. They tried to bury her, but she became the root of something stronger. Then a pause. And the invitation, if you've ever been underestimated, comment, "I still rise," and share this with someone who needs to hear it. The screen went black, but her story stayed, because some lives don't end at survival, they begin at legacy.